19. During the night, he dreamed that he was running late to work. Now this was a dream that often recurred, a beast fed on unsurety and watered by an insecurity of being that he hadn't addressed. It was the easiest of his recurring dreams to decipher, and a single example of suppressed neurosis he could actually acknowledge and understand. The story might alter to specifically suit the state his life was in at the time, but the emotions it produced would always affect the waking hours of the following day. He might have found himself cautious around a person who had chastised his dream self, or he would find himself sitting a little straighter at his desk. More frequently, he simply checked the time incessantly to satisfy the reality that yes, everything was fine, he need not be so vigilant. And so, the ceiling above his head would shift as he'd stare deranged, as good as dead, observing the shadows that crept about his slumbering form, paralysed to any movement of his own. The numbers on the digital clock might glow brighter, give off an artificial daylight that he'd have to squint to read, although that certainly couldn't have been the time. He'd only recently retired for the evening. A new day had begun without him, already mature and functional, indignant to the disorganised man who tried to graft himself onto its industry. Did you think you could just slip in unnoticed? The world won't wait for slouches, boy. I'm sorry, my phone stopped working. We left you 3 messages. That's what they'd say, at least. It was probably best to call in sick, take the day, a mental health day. God knew that no number of sick days could salvage that mind. Therefore, he would throw on a work shirt, unironed and unwashed, and race out of the flat without breakfast or his keys. And thankfully the bathroom window was open, and he could enter his home and retrieve said keys, although he really shouldn't be climbing the roof without a harness. Did he not realise how dangerous that was? Not to mention the grime left on his pants after clambering through an old window. Now if he'd taken the time to dust and wipe down his home, that wouldn't have been a problem. Then came the issue of where he'd parked his car. It had to be in the house somewhere. Yet how could it fit out the front door? Maybe he'd have to settle for walking to work. But by now it was mid-morning, and it was probably best to call in sick. They'd all be in a meeting, chortling away. Where's that Smith with a Y? Who with a who? Ah, him. What does he do again? Yes, Mr. Client, yes. We've missed our deadline. Our big up-and-comer called in sick. Yes, today of all days. He was sweating right through his shirt. The business attire was ill-suited to physical exertion, and it was a hot day. Hot one out there today, pal. Take care. Feet weren't known to combust, but his just might. And he was 33.5 kilometres away from the office. Could he shower at work? Freshen up? No. Too much of the day was already wasted. The traffic was tremendous, and the trains were cancelled, and the footpaths were closed for construction. You can't walk there. Terribly sorry. I'll get out of your way. It's fine, but you don't work here anymore, remember? What are you doing here? You can trust me to stay quiet and out of the way. I won't even bother a soul. Well, they supposed he could sit there if he really wanted to. They had no work for him to do, though. Shouldn't he let his boss know that he's quit and gone back to his old job? It was past midday. Probably best to call in sick. You're back. They let me sit here. Why, though? She said. Mama said? To get things done. I'd better not mess with Major Tom. The sun hadn't risen yet, but the glow of red lines across his bed came from the gaps in the blinds. Was there a fire next door? Couldn't be. Just a swimming pool. He hated fire. That's how she... But no, it isn't the luminance of flame. It's dust. Red dust all the way from the centre of the country, blown across the miles to his dank flat on this idle Wednesday. But that had happened once, hadn't it? Red dust storm one Sydney morning. God, how his clothes had smelt terrible. Get out of bed! I can't be back here again. But you are. I'm so late for work. You don't have a job. Probably best to call in sick. The wife gave him a look of utter disappointment. God looked at him with disgrace. You don't have a wife. How can you be sure God even knows you exist? It was another day, a new chance to make things right. Turning up to work naked was a bold choice though, and the hat didn't suit. Everyone was looking at him. This was not the fashion statement he'd assumed it to be. But he was so far from home. Too late now to go back and change into a proper outfit. She was dangling his keys over his head, and good Lord, she was enormous. Her trunk was thick, her roots ran deep. Oh, you want these, big boy? Can't get to work without them. You need to stop this at once. My wife would never approve. You don't have a wife. My God would never approve. Sounds like a prude. Then he began to outrun those problems, elude the pursuit of that nameless mystery. But maybe he'd be better to relent, call in sick, enjoy the faded memory of pre-birth bliss regained upon death. But who wants to die? I'm still here. Leave me alone. Face me and face yourself. Put a lid on it. You don't go to school anymore. Yet she still had his keys, and he'd probably never get to work on time without them. It was probably best to call in sick. When had she gotten so massive? He struggled against her gravity. The keys left her hand in a powerful throw, whizzing through the air and into the swamp. He dashed down into the dank of the mangroves and waded gingerly into the shallows. Hoist up those pants, boy. Too late. There's mud all over them. God, he shouldn't be here. He was supposed to be at work. I got that watch for my birthday. Keys. And you've just gone and chucked it away. You don't need the time. It's too late already. I've ruined my pants. Aren't you a little old for nocturnal emissions? How embarrassing. The spasm pulsed through his groin. He hated that he enjoyed it. The cold had increased tenfold, showering a powdered snow atop his head in slow drifts. Soon he'd be snowed under, locked forever with that cold, damp patch on his pants disturbing a blizzard of fitful sleep.